Hello, I am reasonably British. This is a review of the Sony ICD-TX660 digital voice recorder, and also the Zoom H1 Essential, and also the Tascam DR07X, but mostly the Sony. I will touch on a few of the pros and cons of each device, but this is not a comprehensive review. My primary concern is testing the audio quality. Thusly, I'm going to play some of this newfangled rock and roll music the kids are playing whilst they're smoking their marijuanas and skateboarding on the damn sidewalks and brandishing prophylactics at elderly pedestrians.
In public, thrusting their pudenda at each other in an overt sexual display.
We shall play some of this pop music through fancy speakers to attempt to get an idea of how each of these devices sound. But first, let us take a closer look at the Sony. My, that is quite pretty. This thing is unmistakably Sony. It is quite impressive that a company is not the right word. Conglomerate. It is quite impressive that a conglomerate such as Sony, a conglomerate with over 100,000 employees, has been able to maintain a consistent and distinctive design language for over half a century. I mean, this thing and this thing are separated by 58 years, and yet they are undeniably of the same origin. And they're not even the same product. Do you know what the Toyota Corolla looked like 58 years ago? This looks nothing like this, and what is that? That's not even close to that. What the is that? I think this persistence of design is even more impressive than Sony being a market leader when it comes to gaming consoles, record labels, televisions, data leaks, and digital cameras. Sony invented the CD, the Blu-ray, the mini disc, the 3.5-inch floppy, as well as the hipster CD, the hipster VHS, and the rewindable iPod. When Marty McFly said,
"All the best stuff is made in Japan,"
he was talking about Sony. 2 minutes, and I haven't gotten to the review yet. No. I'm not pandering to the goddamn algorithm. I don't like when you have to watch a whole video just to find out if something sucks or not, so I'm going to summarize real quick. It's time for Reasonable Richard's sprightly synopsis of suggestiveness. If what you're watching is too long and hard, try some good old Reasonable Dick. Okay, here we go. This one sounds great, and it has multiple microphone configurations, but like the guy from Spinal Tap, putting it near anything electromagnetic renders it useless. It picks up way too much noise, and what is that? It says USB, but it's clearly so out of date, I'm guessing it's a SCSI connector. Nope. OLED screen is yes. AAA batteries are yes. USB-C is even more yes. Actual cardioid mics make a good stereo image. It is but ugly, but sounds pretty good for general purpose recording. This one has 2 microphones, but they're both omnidirectional, so is that really stereo? Is it? It has a stereo emphasis to emphasize the questionably stereo sound, but the only thing that is emphasized is
diarrhea.
That said, for what it is, a teensy tiny voice recorder, it's actually really good. It is not for something high quality like a podcast. The audio quality is poop. But if you live in a place where one-party consent is a thing, and you need to secretly record your significant other to prove that even though you might be the physically intimidating one, you are not the one in control. She made you do it, right? We all know that. You didn't want to do it. That's not you. We all know that wasn't you. She was the one. It was her. Come to us. We can protect you from her. You can escape. Others have escaped, and so can you. Come to us. You'll be safe with us. We can help you. We understand why you did it. After all, you have all the talent, but you feel suffocated, like no decision is your own. You didn't want to be in another serious movie, but she needed more money. She's always controlling you. Every goddamn day until one more joke pushed you over the edge and suddenly,
"What's up, motherfucker?"
So that's what I think. Nope, yes, and yes. From this point on, we're going to get progressively more and more boring and nerdy, so feel free to use the thingy to skip around. For today's music, we have a selection from the Spice Girls tribute band Kadar. I will play their song Villain, which I believe has excellent production quality, a well-managed low end, and a playful stereo image. I'm playing the song in Logic through a Motu M2 audio interface into a pair of Genelec 8040A studio monitors. The monitors are 110 centimeters from each other, 4 centimeters from the wall, and 85 centimeters from the recorders. To calibrate loudness, I played pink noise at -12 decibels and measured about 71 decibels C-weighted from that same distance. I have not done anything to compensate for the sound of the room. Also, it's important to be aware that humans hear sound differently depending on how loud that sound is. When you are doing a critical comparison of audio quality, it is very important that that audio is all at the same loudness. So I have done my best to normalize all of these clips to the same LUFS value, and I have also kept this video at or under -14 LUFS to keep YouTube from adding any compression. Oh, and have I mentioned yet that I have no idea what I'm doing? And whilst Riot Games seems to have a generous policy regarding copyright, I'm probably taking a chance using this song, but that's totally okay, because I have got the perfect solution to copyright claims, and it's really easy. All you have to do is
I'm alone, only know myself no more. Take it to the grave, I'll ghost. I know I can be so cold in the dark, where I like to keep my heart. No more bite, no bark, like to catch you way off guard. I'll stay so deep inside your brain and take you somewhere far away. Time to roll the dice, you know I'm the type to risk my life, not afraid to die. Type to make you cry, type to put a price all up on your head. Do just what I said. I'm a straight up villain, yeah, no feeling, yeah, no feeling. Straight up villain, yeah, no feeling, yeah, no feeling. Alive, but I'm dead, hear my voice up in your head. Watch it fill you full of dread till you go. Is it really a surprise if I'm playing with your mind and I treat you like a prize and I throw you to the side? And am I really that bad if I love to make you mad and get happy when you're sad? Only care about a bad in control. That's how I like it and I'm never letting go. No, never had a soul, so you ain't taking nothing from me when you go. No, I'll stay so deep inside your brain and take you somewhere far away. Time to roll the dice, you know I'm the type to risk my life, not afraid to die. Time to make you cry, time to put a price all up on your head. Do just what I said. I'm a straight up villain, yeah, no feeling, yeah, no feeling. Straight up villain, yeah, no feeling, yeah, no feeling. But I'm dead, you know what's up in your head. Watch it fill you full of dread till you go. Bang, bang, you can do anything. No fear, no pain. Listen to your brain go. Go stupid, go dumb, go stupid, and then we go insane. Whoa. Just do what I say, follow me, lead the way. Time to roll the dice, you know I'm the type to risk my life, not afraid to die. Time to make you cry, time to put a price all up on your head. Do just what I said. I'm a straight up villain, yeah, no feeling, yeah, no feeling. Straight up villain, yeah, no feeling, yeah, no feeling. Alive, but I'm dead, hear my voice up in your head. Watch it fill you full of dread till you go.
what did you think, eh? Which one was your favorite? Well, I thought the Tascam sounded the best, but I'm afraid it must suffer defenestration due to how noisy it was, which is too bad because aside from its use of antiquated USB standards, it would have been my favorite. Now the other two. Comparing them is a bit unfair as they are designed for different uses. The Sony is a teensy tiny voice recorder prioritizing form over audio quality, whilst the Zoom H1e is a high-quality portable stereo general-purpose recorder. Each of them does things the other cannot. The Zoom has removable storage and power, whilst these are both built in for the Sony. The Sony can start recording almost instantly with a single button press. The Zoom takes a bit to boot up. The Zoom has two XY cardioid microphones creating a realistic stereo image, whilst the Sony has two omnidirectional microphones very close to each other. Even with the stereo emphasis setting cranked up, stereo sound is not within reach. But that's not what the Sony is for. It's only meant to record a voice. It is essentially a modern-day dictaphone. They both do have attractive OLED displays. They also both can charge and transfer the recordings over USB-C. Oh, and in case you hadn't noticed the box, the sticker or the website, the Zoom is the only one that records in 32-bit float. And I really don't care. I must admit, I reflexively despise buzzwords, and this is arguably not a buzzword. At least it wasn't until Zoom gave this feature first billing on all of its marketing, and they even slapped this hideous sticker front and center on the product itself, which, while currently highlighting a cutting-edge feature, will in the future only serve to date the product. Sony understands this. Again, 58 years. I mean, you can tell this thing is old, although you're not sure how old. But if this had a sticker espousing the benefits of cutting-edge transistors, its age may be more apparent. Okay, some of you probably want to use this voice recorder to actually record voices. I suppose I should accommodate. So here is a sample of an audiobook played back through one of the Genelecs and recorded at 30 centimeters from the speaker. For the following reading, I have chosen a sample of a 1922 book by the American journalist, attorney, abolitionist, and social reformer Henry Brewster Stanton.
Gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is a pus-discharging inflammation of the canal known as the urethra, which, passing through the entire length of the organ, carries both the urine and the seminal fluid. It is caused by a venereal bacillus, the gonococcus. Under favorable conditions and with right treatment, gonorrhea may be cured, though violently painful, in 14 days. Often, the inflammation extends, becomes chronic, and attacks other organs. This chronic gonorrhea often causes permanent contraction of the urethra, which leads to the painful retention of urine, catarrh of the bladder, and stone. Chronic gonorrhea, too, often ends in death, especially if the kidneys are attacked. A cured case of gonorrhea does not mean immunity from further attacks. New infections are all the more easily acquired. Gonorrhea has even more dangerous consequences in women than in men.
These tests are far from perfect, but hopefully you get the idea. Although it would be nice to have a more objective form of measurement, because just like your eyes, your ears lie to you. You cannot trust them. And to be clear, I am not an expert or professional in this field. I know as much about pro audio and psychoacoustics as Dr. Chase does about the female menstrual cycle.
My God.
So big grain of salt, eh? A quick and dirty way to see the frequency response of a microphone is to play pink noise, which looks like this, record it, and compare before and after. This also shows the frequency response of the speakers, the room, which is just as important as the speakers, the audio interface, and the cables. In my testing of these recorders, all but the microphone should remain constant. You could also use software like Room EQ Wizard, which can compensate for the signal chain and sound of the room.
Mostly.
REW can play a sine wave sweep like this, repeatedly, and then show you the average response. Alas, we are not going to do any of that. You see, I was recently at one of the monthly meetings for the secret society of swanky and sophisticated YouTubers when, what? You're not actually surprised that's a thing, are you? Well, shortly after the blood orgy, a fellow creator suggested I check out the program MD Fourier. So that's what we're going to do. I downloaded this and this, dragged this into Logic, played it, recorded it, and coffee break. Now I have the reference file and the recording. Trim the recording. I put the reference file right here and the recording right here. Press this button right here and victory. Look at all the pretty colors. This is the first of many graphs it spits out. This graph is the Motu M2 interface feeding back into itself. And my understanding is that the frequency response of the signal chain is shown by how much these pretty colors deviate from this 0 dB line. This fuzziness could be the noise floor reflections, or maybe the crappy TRS cables I used. I'm really not sure. But the response of the M2 looks pretty accurate and transparent from this graph. Compare this to the zoom. Keep in mind this graph, as well as all of the following graphs, are also showing the frequency response of the room, as well as the rest of the signal chain. In comparing these recorders, we should ignore that first graph I showed you, and only consider how much these graphs differ from each other, not how much they deviate from 0 decibels. Let's compare the zoom to the Sony. Now, this is quite messy, but there is one large difference I'd like to point out. The zoom starts to roll off the higher frequencies with the trough at 16 or 17 kilohertz, whilst the Sony has a distinct peak from 12 to 15 kilohertz. When using the Sony, this peak is very audible. The Sony has a grading, tinny sound to it, and that's one of the things that would keep me from using it as a primary lavalier replacement. A backup, sure, but not a primary. This is the Sony with the stereo emphasis set on light, and I think this sounds and looks horrible. To me, this setting is absolutely useless. It does not really emphasize the stereo image, or lack thereof, and seems to only make the recording even more useless. Although if hearing what the voice is saying is more important to you than the actual quality of the audio, then I would expect this setting to be beneficial. But otherwise, steer clear of stereo emphasis. Well, I think I'm going to end it now. MD Fourier seems like an excellent program, and I tip my hat to my fellow influencer for pointing me to it. I only scratched the surface of what MD Fourier and Room EQ Wizard can do, and I'm not deeply familiar with either of them, so I'll only say you should check them both out. Oh, and all of the software in this video is free, except Logic. Well, I'm not quite sure how to end this, so shall we trip balls? Yes? Okay, trip balls.
What?